So we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders. We have Joe Foster, a legend and a leader, the creator of the Reebok shoe company. Joe, great to have you here.
It's really great to be with you, Ben, and meet you once more. So I'm looking forward to this. Yes.
Sounds good. So I'd love to just start with your grandfather, right? Your grandfather created the spiked running shoe. So how did that have an impact on you growing up? Did that help spark your interest in footwear and your willingness to be innovative? Like, how did it affect you?
Not in the least, really. You'd be surprised. We didn't even know that much about my grandfather during our sort of younger years, Jeff and myself. Um, he had died, of course, before I was born. He died in 33, shortly after Jeff was born. So we never really knew grandfather. And with my father and uncle not getting on at all, we never really was brought into the business. So we didn't know much about grandfather. It was really when when Reebok became known, pretty well known at that point, we decided that we better get involved with the history and dig a bit deeper, that we found out exactly what grandfather did. So it didn't have any influence really. No, surprisingly enough, we had no influence at all from grandfather in our early years.
hmm So when you were getting to the point of wanting to create your own brand, right? Your own sneaker brand, how difficult was it for you to just to kind of go on your own like that and try to figure it out? Was it something that took a lot of it was just something that was like took a lot of energy out of you? Like how difficult was it?
Well, not really. You know, you're young. What can go wrong? Nothing can go wrong. We can do this. It's just a matter of application. Let's get on with it. It's just an idea you have. As I mentioned just a bit earlier, my father and uncle, I think there's 5 years difference between them in age, and they just did not get on altogether. So that wonderful, beautiful business that my grandfather had developed and had founded, really, they let it
Mm,
go. And it was only after doing
mm,
national service, Jeff and myself, we did 2 years of national service. We had to do that. And we came back to a failing company. J.W. Foster's and Sons was a failing company. And so
mm.
setting up on our own was really a necessity. We couldn't get my father to agree to we had to change. And Adidas had come into the country and they were taking over all the soccer business. They'd taken that off Foster's. And we were saying, come on, we need to do something. All my father could say, look, when I'm gone and your
Yeah.
uncle's gone, this will be your company. You can do what you like. And I said, Dad, number one, we don't want you to go. But number two, this company's going. It will be gone long before you are. But he didn't listen. So by necessity, Jeff and myself said, we better do something
Mm.
ourselves. We better get on our own and set something up. So we made that decision to leave the company, I think out of necessity. And we needed a job.
Right.
Right.
That too. Yeah.
The,
So Jeff and you go out there, you want to create this shoe company. How did you even learn how to make sneakers and like how did you figure that out?
well, I mean, I spent 12 months before going into national service. And after national service, I came back to the Foster family business. I came back there. I'd come back when I was 20. So just over 2 years working in the factory, on the factory floor. However, all we knew, I mean, they made, we've been mentioning boxing boots, we've mentioned all sorts. They made everything, all sports shoes, from soccer boots to
Mm,
cycle shoes, running shoes, um, wrestling boots, and they made the whole thing. So we had a good idea what a sports shoe looked like, a really good idea. What we didn't know was
right.
footwear manufacture. So Jeff and I, we went to college, and we did college at night, and we learned. Not only did we learn a bit more about making shoes, we made a lot of friends, and they were the people. When
hmm
we wanted to leave and set up our own business, they could tell us everything: where to get machinery, where to get materials, the different types of machines. So that was the most important part about going to college. Not so much learning about shoes, but making friends.
Was who you knew. Yeah. Wow. So you're basically going out on this journey now and starting your own thing. Was it you needed, of course, to make income, right? This was your job, but did you think at the time, Joe, that this was going to become something that was much bigger, this global brand? Did you think that was possible?
Well, you always dream, and if you've got enough dreams, you can always think maybe if we get it right, if we do something good, maybe, who knows? But
Right.
essentially, it was taking those steps and finding what we described as white space. In other words, there were some big guys, and Adidas in particular. So we had to find, where can we go that they are not, and where can we make a difference? And that was cycling, it was cross country running, it was orienteering, the different
Mhm.
areas, and rugby. Rugby was good for us as well.
Right. How did you, Joe, how did you identify these different aspects of like white space? Like, was it just you would go to these, like, go to races or go to cycling events or like go to these things and see like, hey, there's no shoes here. Like there should be some type of sneaker here that's much better design than what's there. Like, what was your process?
Well, our process initially was, I played badminton, but that's a different type of product
Yeah.
for the footwear for badminton. This is more of a vulcanized product. Whereas Jeff, he was a cyclist. So he was out cycling there. So he met a lot of people. And so making cycle shoes seemed to be a good idea. He also decided that he would like, he went out running. Again, running for me, you've read my book. My book said, I hate running. So I
Of
didn't go out
course.
running. But he went out running, and sort of through his early efforts there, we made connections with local teams, with the Bolton United Harriers, who had been a very successful athletics club for many, many years, and the Bury and Radcliffe. So we started to get people to know people, and we were asking them, well, what do you think we should do? What difference would you like to
Mhm.
see? So we started making different things. We also had our eye on Adidas, what they were doing, and how we could be different from Adidas. And it's like looking for those little chinks, those little things. That, oh, we can make this. We can make a running shoe with
Yeah.
a nice cushion sole, a different cushion sole. And because we were local, we managed to pick up a lot of local business. Within 50 miles radius of where we were, athletes would come along. They'd just drive in, whatever, ride in, come and see us, and they felt part of what we were doing. So, part of our white space was really
Yeah.
knowing people.
Mhm. And you like always were embracing white space. Like you embrace white space with the aerobic market, with yoga like shoes for women. It just was something that seemed like was part of the DNA of Reebok since the beginning of it, trying to find these opportunities, right?
I think when you're faced with some challenges, and how do we get around this? But how do we make a difference? We didn't have the cash to make a difference, because if you've got plenty of money, you can
Right.
go in somewhere and buy a market. We couldn't buy the market. We just had
Yeah.
to find something that make friends. You're going to meet people, and uh, a lot of things is the people you know rather than what you know. And if you know the people, and we
Hmm.
used to get to know the people, we could pass our message on that, we're in this game. We can make shoes as good as anybody, and a bit better or a bit different.
Yeah.
And small sports like in the UK, we have rugby league and rugby union. Rugby league is a North of England sport, so
Mm.
Adidas didn't really take any notice of that. But I knew every team.
Uh-huh.
I got to know every team, and we supplied every team and that
Wow.
was quite a lot. We had something like 30 or 40 teams playing rugby league every week. So
Right.
it was digging our way in, really, knocking on doors, I suppose, in many ways, to get that momentum.
Hmm. Do you think that the biggest driver now of footwear in general, do you think like, well, even since you were building Reebok to now, was it generally athletic and now it's shifted to more lifestyle, or is it always just people liked wearing the running shoes like in a lifestyle way? Like how much has that changed since the beginning?
Well, when we started, really, um, we were making performance shoes, because soccer,
Right.
rugby, you wouldn't wear those shoes on the street. And first of all, the street came in with training shoes. And I believe Adidas
Mm.
probably made a big mark there. They did soccer training shoes, and that became that went street. Also, the shirts went street. So football shirts with the three stripes on the Adidas. A lot of the kids we used to buy those. So it started to become fashionable. But I mean, right now we compare it to now. To now, the business is fashion. Let's not pretend that performance is
Yeah.
just a way of driving the fashion. So we were making performance shoes. Now Reebok is a fashion company. Adidas, Nike, it's fashion, and uh, and so the performance side of it is now just a motivator. It's to drive that fashion, and I think I did it
Yeah.
when Nike started. Nike started first of all as performance, with the running boom. Nike started with running boom, and that was just pure performance in those early days, but it spread rapidly, rapidly. And the beautiful thing about running,
Yeah.
particularly road running, is that yes, you can wear those same shoes. You can wear those shoes casually. You can wear them for fashion. You can wear them every day. And
Yeah.
what's more is
Did you
they're more comfortable.
right. That as well.
That as
Did
well.
Joe, did you see the basketball trend? Did you see the basketball trend happening? Like, did you think that that was something that would become like a large seller of footwear globally?
Well, I think probably Nike drove that a bit, but basketball did become big, 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 and we didn't see. I didn't see that. The Americans did, of course. Paul Fireman over in America and Arnold
Mhm.
Martinez. They once we really got a grip through aerobics. Once we got a grip through it, and I can remember the conversation we were saying aerobics, women, but how do we become a rounded sports shoe company? We need to make
Right.
shoe for men, and where do we go for that? And
Yeah.
I think it was then that everyone said, well, yeah, running is good, and running is growing remarkably, but there's a lot of enthusiasm being driven by the performance brand of basketball. Basketball is now growing rapidly, and we're really getting some stars there. So we picked up on that as a
Mhm.
natural one. But by that time, we'd got to a certain size that we could afford to take on Nike. We could afford to take on Adidas, and that helped. Yeah, that helped. When you could afford to do it, it really, I don't say it becomes simple, but it becomes easier.
Right. So you built the Aztec running shoe, right? That was at an interesting point in time when I mean when there was a whole new innovation in terms of running shoe grips and how those were designed. Well, what was the thinking behind the design of the Aztec? Like how did you come up with the idea of to make it the way it was?
Well, I've told this story a few times. It's Runner's World. Runner's World. They were driving that segment. Running became big because of Runner's World.
Mhm.
Runners World would tell you where's the
Uh-huh.
next race, who won the last race. So you could have your name in Runners World because you may have come number 100 in a 10 kilometer. Well, but they printed all this, so everybody who was out there running bought Runners World, and of course everybody who made running
Huh.
shoes advertised in Runners World. And Runners World became that big
Right.
that Bob Anderson decided he could tell everybody which was the number one running shoe, which was the best shoe to buy, and that was a Nike. And of course, the biggest problem was that by that time, there's probably something like 30 million runners out there, good, bad, and indifferent people out there running, and probably 10%, maybe 3 million. We should all buy this Nike, whatever it was, Tailwind or whatever the shoe was. We should all buy that. And yes, they wanted to buy it, but unfortunately, Phil Knight has imported his shoes from Asia, and you just can't turn the
Mm.
quantities up. So it
Mm.
starved the trade. All the retailers, athletes, foot, whatever, they were all crying out for this shoe, and people were walking in and saying, "Can we get this shoe?" It didn't work. So the retail trade were really up in arms. And Bob Anderson, in his wisdom, 12 months later, chose another shoe to be number one. I don't know who it was. It could have been New Balance, Brooks, or Tonic, or and any of the
Mm.
brands were out there. I don't know which one it was. Same story though. Everybody is importing these shoes from the Far East, from Asia. Same story. Third year, Bob Anderson, he'd either been told to change or he had a bright idea. Instead of
Hmm.
saying this is the number one shoe, we're going to do the next shoe ratings. We'll do star ratings. So 5 star will be the best shoes, and we could have maybe 2, 3, or 4 5-star shoes. And it was at that point that we knew how to make a 5-star shoe. Whether we would get it or not
Yeah.
would be a bit of a gamble. We know to do that because we knew at that point, we're part of this business. We're a competitor, so it would be sad if we didn't know how to make a shoe that would compete for 5 stars. And so we did.
Right.
We looked around, we checked everything out, and we made Aztec. And oh, yes, I mean, I told everybody we were going to have a 5-star shoe, and by God, we got a 5-star shoe. But the important one was Aztec, even though in the shoe edition, which came out in August '79. Well, they'd had one before that, but August '79, this one came out, and they were testing all athletic shoes, and testing spike track shoes and racing
Right.
shoes, and we actually got 3 5-star shoes. Our Aztec, which would be the volume, and then there was Midas, which was a road racing shoe, very lightweight, and then we had a track spike called Inca. So that was our gold range, and the gold range we got 3 5-star shoes. So, and that made a difference. It made a difference for us. I've been trying since 1978 to get onto the American market, but now the American market wanted us
Right.
because we were in Runner's World. So that was our lucky
Hmm.
streak. We worked hard for it, but we got there.
Right. And so, Joe, you mentioned like expanding to the U.S. market. You Paul Fireman was instrumental in expanding to the U.S. market with you guys. How did that relationship happen? How did you meet him, and why did you think he was the one to help you make it happen?
Well, we were a small company. Paul Fireman was running a small
Right.
company, Boston Camping, and although
Hmm.
his was an outdoor product and ours was a sports product, so it was outdoor and sport, but really it
Right.
was a very similar type of product range. And he came onto my stand when I was in Chicago in that would be February of '79, and that's a good 6 months before the August issue was coming out of Runner's World. And by that time, look, everybody was getting interested. A lot of people were getting interested in running shoes.
Right.
For that, I mean, that
Hmm.
category was going so fast. We had Kmart, came along. They wanted 25,000 pairs, and it was great. And that was before we got a 5-star. But I couldn't get on with Kmart.
Right.
They were too big. It was like, how big are you? And Paul Fireman came on, and we could chat, just like we're chatting now. And I could get on with Paul Fireman. Yeah, there are people you can really get on with, and Paul I could get on with. And he said, "Look, Joe, if you get a 5-star shoe, I'll be your distributor." Okay, Paul, come on, I've got this shoe. So I showed him Aztec, and he said, "Okay, Joe, yeah, great shoe," he said, "but how do you know it's going to be 5 stars?" Well,
Mm.
we're pretty confident. So he said, "Well, when it gets 5 stars, that'll be it." And of course, we'd got a bit of a while between February and August. So I visited the USA, visited
Right.
Paul, visited Kmart in May of that year, and had more conversations. But it wasn't until the last week in July, that was when the August issue of Runner's World came out. And I did phone Paul and said, Paul, can you go down to the local kiosk? I'm sure the Runner's World is out now, and see how we did. It took him an hour before he came back, and they said, "Yes, Joe." He said, "Aztec got 5 stars, fantastic." That was it. But he
Oh my
said
God.
then Midas and Inca
Wow.
also got 5 stars. So that was it. That was the time. And you know, and if you ever thought that you were going to get big, I suppose at that point we probably thought, well, we've got on the American market. That's going to grow our company. Oh, sorry, scale our company.
Right.
Yeah, it was growing a company in those days. Now it's scaling our company. So that's going to be really good for us. And it was, because it was from then on that, apart from a couple of hiccups here and there with the odd product going wrong, apart from that, yeah, that was the start of us moving into America. For me, the USA always was the goal. I needed it, USA. That was a big, big
Right.
move.
Hmm. And you felt like somebody in the US that understood the market could really lead that out, and you would just focus on the overall expansion like into other countries. Like you thought that would be the best system.
I think for me, it was a question of somebody I could really work with. If there's a guy there I could work with,
Yeah.
we could achieve more than if I was just producing a product for a big company that just had lots of space. But my
Right.
problem with people like Kmart was they would
Mhm.
give me maybe 2 square meters of selling space wherever in a store, and if that selling space made enough profit, I would I would get another order. If it didn't,
Mhm.
they would blow me away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I felt I needed somebody who
Mhm.
could grow, who could take the pain as well as the good time. And Paul could. Paul would take the
Yeah.
pain as well. Those growing problems. So yeah, that was really good. In fact,
Yeah.
we had barter help us make the first 20,000 pairs, and if that had been 25,000 pairs for
Mm.
Kmart, they would have sent them all back to me, and it would have been just
Right.
as simple as that. I'm quite sure, because they weren't thinking about a brand. They were thinking about there's another category here. Can we make money out of this category? So yeah, going
Mm.
with Paul was the right decision.
Yeah. Eh, So what was your favorite like and most memorable collaboration experience at Reebok? Like you did some sort of shoe collaboration that like the pump was obviously of course quite a an interesting thing, but what was your favorite collaboration?
Well, I mean, it is either Iverson, of course, or it's Shaq. I mean, those collaborations they worked tremendously
They were huge.
for the brand. They were huge,
Yeah.
and they still exist. I mean, that's the beauty of it. They still exist,
Uh-huh.
just as Nike is there with
They're
Jordan.
classics.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
there's a certain period in I'm going to say in the growth or in any new idea coming onto the market. At a certain time when people make impressions, and those impressions
Hmm.
last. And I think we arrived on the scene at the right time, just as Nike.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Adidas have been there before, uh, but Nike arrived at the right time. I think there's a lot of people now trying to get into the market now. In fact, I was reading something on Google that they were saying the top nine uh, sports shoe brands. These are the top nine sports shoe, and they put Reebok as third. And we whilst we had been number one under the rule of Adidas being with Adidas, we had dropped down to something. Well, I would have said if we were in the top 10, we were lucky. But what they were talking about is what people feel. They feel that Reebok is number three because we've been there a long time. Because they have so many members of Reebok,
Right.
not volume. Volume wise, I'm pretty sure we're well down yet. But with ABG, now the brand is growing back again because it is that reputation now which is allowing them to use their skill, which is retail, and their skill is just making the brand uh, more available. They put in stores on all around the world
Right.
now, like rapid fire. I think there's 3 just opened in India. So, yeah, so the people remember Reebok, and like you say, they remember it probably because of D Brown dunking that, turning around, just dunking the ball and then pumping his shoes. So I think when it comes to collaborations, uh, yes, the pump was the one that really made it. The collaborations with Shaq O'Neal and of
Mm.
course Iverson and D Brown for that matter. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, so they're memorable.
Was there some sort of is there like some sort of like in like way you look at a product and you can kind of break it down and say like, hey, this is how we can innovate from here? Because there were many innovations throughout the history of Reebok that have really pushed the industry forward from outsoles to the pump technology to the zig technology, just so many different innovations. Like, do you look at the product differently? Like, how do you figure out what to do next?
Well, I think one of the things you've got to have this visibility. People are going to look at you and just it's great. I was with Paul in the early days, and we had the star crest as our logo, and the star crest is still on the tongue. It's on the tongue of of every one of
Yeah.
the shoes. Well, certainly of the um, classics. It's the classics. It's on the tongue of classics, and so and Paul is saying, Joe, can we use the Union Jack instead of the Starcrest? He said, I love the Starcrest. He said, but it's going to cost us millions, take us so long to get everybody in America to know that is Reebok, that's the Starcrest. Can we use the Union Jack? And I'm thinking, well, Paul, yeah, we could use the Union Jack. We'll get killed in the United Kingdom. We'll get killed in England if we use the Union Jack, purely and simply on the fact that we're now making these shoes in Korea, and the Union Jack would be somewhat indicative of the really should be made in England. I said, but yeah, we could do that. And that was great because not only did we put the Union Jack on the shoes in the window box on each side, we put the Union
Right.
Jack. Also, the box itself was a Union Jack. But I did say to Paul, why the Union Jack?
Mm.
And this is what surprised me. He said, Joe, he said everybody in America knows the Union Jack. Everybody
Mm.
knows the Union Jack, and that was
Right.
it. And we had very little point of sale, very little point of sale. But what the retailers did
Mhm.
with the boxes, they just stacked the boxes on the side with the Union Jack facing outwards, and they built them up like a pyramid. And then they put a shoe on each of these, and that it wasn't just one store or one group that did that. The whole of America did it. So, you know, what
Wow.
makes a brand become popular, become well known? It's all those little things. The small things. It is just all of a sudden the Union Jack, and it went through all of the sports stores used it. So it was great. I mean, I remember at the time taking loads and loads of photographs of these pyramids of Union Jack boxes, and then of course when we get the aerobics, I mean that was now, I think you call it pivoting now. We pivoted to aerobics. We were only small, a $9 million
Right.
company, small company, making our way into the running market, and we were doing nice, but
Right.
only nice. When we hit aerobics, that was really it was like striking gold, you know, or striking oil. I don't know what it is, but it came out like a gusher. It really, really made that big difference. And for 4 years and more, we were chasing the business. We didn't have to sell anything. We didn't have to sell a shoe because everybody was so crazy about aerobics, particularly the women, and that's what really made us grow. So it was fantastic. So it
Hmm.
is these small
What do
things.
you think? Mhm.
Well,
What do you think about some of these like newer companies that have started that have been more direct to consumer online, right? They don't need to go scale out to distribution and all these different outlets. They can just start selling products online. Like On, for example, it does a lot of that. Adams. Like, do you think that this direct to consumer model is really the future, or do you think stores are going to still be really important to retail in?
well, I mean, people ask me, do you think retail is over now that everybody's buying online? And I said, no, this is now a new
Yeah.
sport. Retail is a new sport. People want entertainment. And the malls, now everyone's building these massive malls with fantastic retail uh, areas in there. And whilst people do use the malls to buy, they also use the malls to check out the product. You know, they'll go in and maybe see if they can get it
Right.
cheaper online. But no, the
Right.
malls are great. The malls are really, people want to do that. People, you know, it's okay if you're buying a widget or a screw or maybe a set of tools, something like that. I think online's okay, but when you use something like fashion, fashion, you know, people love fashion, especially the women. The women love fashion. They love to go in the stores and rummage around and see what is new, and
Yeah.
and they love that. And then, of course, and I know online has improved incredibly. You can place your order at sort of late in the afternoon and it arrives the following day. You know, it is such, but I think there's a bit more to
Right.
it. So we're talking about the new brands. On did something different. They produced a different sole. So we would call that VizTech.
Right.
So a bit of technology there, a bit of visible technology, and it's going well.
Yeah.
It's going well for them. You know, they're growing. They're growing well, but they don't have any history
Yeah.
now. You know,
Right.
people say, and I know in America, a lot of people say, well, we don't bother with history. But history is emotion. History is something which,
Mm.
so many times when I go across to America now and I meet somebody in the mid 40s, mid to late 40s, and they're saying, oh, when I was a kid, it was pump. And my parents said, it's too
Right.
expensive. No, you can't have those. They're too expensive. I had to go out and get a job. Then I could afford a pair of pump. And it's those sort of memories now that people have that, and it's that history. We can go back to my grandfather who invented the spike running shoe, was credited with inventing it. I would say possibly more pioneered rather than invented, because though he got the idea from cricket boots. They put spikes in cricket boots. They were not the same spikes, but
Mm.
the idea was that you needed some grip. So we can go back to that, and so I think you need a little bit of history to sort of build that almost that sort of
Mhm.
customer presence. They feel that there's something genuine
Yeah.
here, something that's lasted for a long while.
And how important do you think the lightness of the shoe is? Like, because right now people really like On's products. They like a lot of other like shoes that are really light and feel like not much is there. Like, was that something that's always been important? Do you think that that's really an important factor to driving sales?
I think it has a part, but we know a guy in the UK. He's almost at 1 billion sales, and he's totally fashion. And his product is so heavy,
Yeah.
it's massively heavy. And there are some shoes on, but they're totally fashion, and so they sell. The thing
Yeah.
is with sports, with what we call sports shoes today, sports shoes are fashion. That is the look. So it's the look more than anything else. If you're using them for
Right.
performance, yes, weight is a big difference if you're performing. Um, and and I think this is where Nike and Reebok and Adidas have probably got the advantage, because they know, everybody knows these shoes perform. I've not yet seen On produce a world-beating race, or I mean, they have an athlete, of course. They've got Federer.
Mm.
Federer is part of their team, but that's tennis, and I don't know if they produce a
Right.
tennis shoe yet. But yeah, there's a lot. I mean, Vans are very popular as well, because they're light, and they're inexpensive.
Mm.
I'm not going to say they're
Right.
cheap, but they're not the same premium sort of brand that you get with Nike or Reebok. You know, so but it means that I have so many people out there. How many billion people do we have in this world, and how many people are buying that type of footwear? Nearly everybody you see these days are walking out there in some
Yeah.
form of sports footwear. Sport, it's fashion driven,
Mhm.
but it's sports footwear.
Was there the same kind of sneaker culture there is today? Because there's people that collect tons of pairs, they resell them. I just recently went to an event that it was like a whole conference with booths set up and people just selling the rarest pairs of shoes. Did that exist at all when you were building Reebok, or is that just kind of
Yeah.
happened later on?
No, that happened. The only way that
None of it.
any shoe would be of value would be somebody like Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister broke the 4 minute
Mm.
mile record, and I think his shoes, they were not Reebok, they were GT Law. Well, you've probably never heard of GT Law, but
Mm.
he used to be a competitor of J.W.
No.
Foster at this time, and he sold this for, I think, about 80,000
Huh.
pounds. So that was a big sum of money. But
Okay.
then, that was the pair of shoes that broke 4 minute mile. So that was the only thing. Nowadays, it's incredible. It's a crazy world. It is. Fashion has gone crazy, but it is a phenomenon that's with shoes. I mean, I know that ladies' handbags can almost
Mhm.
do the same thing with ladies' handbags, but the shoe culture, it's uh,
Yeah.
it's just a changing way that people are. They can afford to buy a pair of shoes which are no longer made, and that's the secret these days, is to make a shoe, give it a name, get the name well known, and then stop that. So it becomes a rarity. If anybody wanted that, now they've
Mhm.
got to go somewhere else for it. And you don't reintroduce it; you make it
Yeah.
different. It's a different color, slightly different height,
Mhm.
different whatever it is, and so it's part of marketing. I mean, marketing has changed so much, but marketing now
So
is
much.
to keep something as rare as you can, make it as exclusive as you can. So,
Mhm.
the changes are incredible. But but the growth is still there.
Right.
There's so much growth in that business.
Yeah. Well, what do you see as the next, like, this will be the last question. What do you see are like the next steps for the industry as a whole? Like, what are some innovations that really haven't happened yet that you think could be very disruptive in terms of the physical design of the product, in terms of different things you could do?
Well, there's a guy I know who started to make a physical shoe and then an NFT and then use it in gaming. So I think this has an enormous amount of specs, and I can see a future where people start taking this into the metaverse. The metaverse is
Right.
come sort of seems to have flattened, but it's the future. There's a lot of future out there, and I think that yeah, we're now
Thanks.
identifying the different way.
Well, Joe, it's been, great to have you here. I appreciate it. What you've accomplished is so impressive, and you've really built something that's completely changed the world and changed the world of footwear, but changed the world of athletics as well in so many ways. And it's been great to have you. And everyone should go check out your book as well, the Shoemaker book. I read it. It's a really great book. Goes through this story of how you were in a factory and just not really able to afford much and building the shoe out all the way to going and scaling out a global brand and doing $1 billion in 5 years or so and taking over the aerobics market. So people should definitely check out the Shoemaker book. Thanks for coming.
Well, that would be really good. But it was our time, and timing is so important. I think to be there at the right time, and you can never guarantee it's the right time. It's how things move.
Right.
That's your good luck, but the opportunity to use your good luck is you've got to take it. So it's been a pleasure. I enjoyed it, and I'm sure we'll talk again.